Hello and welcome back to Leeds Student Television. I'm Rachel and today I'm going to be chatting to our final few candidates running for a few of our different roles on the LUU exec. So I'm going to hand over to you guys to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Beth. I'm a third year Sustainability and Environmental Management student. I'm running for Wellbeing Officer this year. My main points for my manifesto are eliminating exam burnout by creating a festival week that sits just after exams and before semester 2 teaching. Also fighting imposter syndrome by creating multi-level accessible mental health services. And my final point is let's feel good again. I want to make up for lost time and revamp the union that we once knew and utilise the time that we have lost to recreate union.
Hi, I'm Devashish. I am full-time MBA student. I'm running for international and postgrad position. And surprisingly, I am both. I'm an international as well as postgrad student. And being an officer would be really great. As I am aware of all the challenges that international as well as a postgraduate student faces, my key manifestos are, the first is to create a scenario where the seeker become the creator, where we all are here to seek a job or seek a position that we are looking for. And if we can have a environment where everyone starts creating job rather than seeking a job. So that is my first manifesto point. The second one is to create or to plan out an environment where after COVID situation where we know how to deal with such type of pandemic scenarios for all international and postgraduate students. And the third is to for the researchers to create in-house funding, because for all the researchers the main issue that they face is fundings, and if we can generate fund within Leeds, it would be really great rather than seeking out funds from outside. The fourth is student for a student. Currently, a lot of student unions are asking for joining fee, and which actually restricts a lot of students to join them. If we can create a self-sustaining Leeds union mechanism where they can generate their own funds rather than asking it for newly international students or in-house students to join, I think those are my key points.
Hi, my name's Iona and I'm running for Gryphon editor this year. I'm running off 5 key manifesto points. Firstly, I want to run workshops by members of marginalised groups to empower every writer to feel like they can write on sensitive issues and topics respectfully. Secondly, I want to make more room for student debate in the paper's radio and online presence. Third, I want welfare training for every editor and associate of the paper. Fourth, I want there to be a mentorship scheme put in place for lower income students and build off the success of this year's People of Colour mentorship scheme. And finally, I want to dedicate a subsection of the business part of the paper to supporting local student businesses. Thanks.
So hello everyone, I'm Mikhail and I'm running to be your next education officer. I'm studying business management with marketing, and my strategy is synced with difficult challenges created due to the COVID pandemic and all the difficulties that it has brought to students and generally our education. He's also looking forward to the future of education and working with the university for a long-term strategy. Some of my key points are the planning for the day after COVID. This includes more clear and direct communications through the university, prioritizing students' mental health, and reconsidering grading assessments and practices on a case-by-case basis on each school. My second point is upgrading the students' educational experience with a more flexible approach in learning, more private partnerships for career and internships, additional drop-in study spaces, because I personally believe that more and more students next year would want to be on campus, even if they have online learning, and creating also one-stop solution centers for students around campus. My third point is working for student-oriented learning, and this includes all the textbooks and learning materials to be available online, digitalized, and for free for each student. And if they cannot be online because of issues with the editor and things, they should be replaced with new learning material. Moving on to my second point in working on us for student-oriented learning is a more transparent approach in the marking process and a more compulsory feedback policy for each school. Upgrading the Minerva experience, making it more student-friendly, and investing generally in more student-centric platforms. And last but not least is additional academic skill workshops, especially for students coming next year.
I'm Meg. I'm a final year philosophy, ethics and religion student. I'm running for education officer because I want to create student-led change in the curriculum. And I also want to eliminate the barriers that prevent students from getting the academic experience they're paying for. If I'm voted education officer, I want to work towards decolonising and diversifying the curriculum. And to do this, I'll hopefully introduce more BAME, LGBT+, and other minority, as well as female perspectives into core reading lists. I want to work towards closing the BAME awarding gap. This can be done through a more representative university leadership team, just to increase students' sense of belonging and improve their academic engagement. I'll improve the standard of education by listening to students to recognise what worked well over COVID and what didn't work. And I'll also increase the support for students who want to pursue graduate opportunities in the creative industry. I feel like there's not a lot of support for people who want to go into arts and music world. So I think conferences and workshops with industry professionals and also university alumni would really help with that.
Thank you so much, guys. So we're going to get started with a few questions. So Beth, you're running for Wellbeing Officer. What are your thoughts on the current provision of mental health services at the university? Do you feel that they meet the demand? And what will you do to change this? Like, how will you hold the university to account almost?
Students feel let down this year. I think I've spoken to a lot of people who don't even realise they're at uni. They're kind of going through the phases. They sit down at their desk and they log off their laptop, but they don't really feel much connection to the uni. So what I really want to do is, although there are provisions there, I don't think a lot of people know they're there, and that's not their fault. That's the fault of the communication of both the union and the university. My main aim is kind of to increase that accessibility, increase the awareness. So one of the main focuses of my campaign is by removing imposter syndrome. So one of the services that kind of aligns with this is the drop-in service that is offered at the uni. I think it runs about 10 till 4, but a lot of students, you know, they've got exams, they've got lectures that don't fit in that. So I want to expand that service so it runs both evenings and weekends. This will also align with those who do placements during the day. And this service really isn't looking for anyone to kind of label their problems. You don't need to come in thinking that you are anxious or that you are depressed or any of those kinds of labels. You just go in and you talk to someone. And then through that, you can either just have one conversation or it can be taken forward if it needs to be. Additionally to that, I think a lot of people have felt extremely fatigued by 48-hour exams this year. Many people have had back-to-back exams and felt like they've been sat in an exam hall for 3 days straight. That shouldn't be the case, especially for those who have to jump straight back into teaching. That's why I want to introduce Festival Week, which is post-exams before semester 2 teaching. This has worked really well at universities like Birmingham. So the week is just full of fun activities, exercise classes, talks, and just a time for you to relax and think about things other than just the academics, because university isn't just about your lectures, it's about the greater world and what you're going to do going forward. So yeah, I think the university has stuff there, but there's definitely ways that everything can be expanded.
What about the physical side of things? Obviously, we've had quite a difficult, physically challenging year. How are you going to make sure students' physical health and well-being is looked after as well as their mental well-being?
In the previous years, the union run a range of well-being yoga classes and active classes, but again, they're not really known about. So it's kind of bringing all of those straight to the doorsteps of students. One of my main focuses is by creating a LUU events page on Facebook. So people often use Facebook daily. That's where they get their activities. We use things like Leeds Student Group all the time. But the union aren't utilising this space. Instead, people have to go out of their way to go specifically onto the events page. This results in people not knowing what's going on. So I want to keep going with all the activities that they're doing, keeping wellbeing, like activities like Pilates, yoga, dance classes, and but yeah, bringing those to the students. So that's something I want to do in my campaign. Please follow me on Instagram at Beth for Wellbeing. I'm running a series of non-judgmental classes in exercise classes and dance classes, where it's all just a bit of fun, messing around, and no need to have any kind of experience. I mean, I don't. Yeah, just to have fun with it, because I think a lot of time when it comes to being physical, people always think that they need to be the creme de la creme, but you don't. Just have fun, especially now, just mess around. To be honest, that's all I do. Put in my headphones and dance in my bedroom. That's how I'm staying fit and healthy.
Definitely. I might have to join in, to be fair. That sounds quite fun. Fantastic. So we're going to move on to our potential education candidates. So Megan and Mikhail, these questions are both for you. Feel free to just jump in and answer after each other. So the first one is, do you think that the university has offered adequate resources this year, particularly to those who have had to write dissertations and projects throughout the pandemic? What would you have liked to have seen done differently?
Answering that one. So regarding resources, I'd like to carry on the work of the current exec in digitising core resources and reading lists across all schools to make them more easily accessible for both students and researchers. This year, I've personally struggled with accessing books and journals for writing my dissertation. And although you can suggest a purchase to the library, these often don't get purchased in time, or they don't get purchased at all. So I think maybe having a bursary for these resources, or being able to be reimbursed for the purchases you've had to make yourself, because really these resources should be included in our tuition fees that we're paying. And when a book or a journal isn't available through the library and it isn't available for free anywhere else, it really puts students at a disadvantage. So I think having a system where students can be reimbursed for the purchases they've had to make would really help students access to resources.
For me, also access to the textbooks and the resources that students might need is a key priority. And especially this year, it was a challenge for everyone. And especially if you couldn't find available on the library to click and collect, or even for students studying abroad or students that weren't in Leeds. I think this is something that we should definitely work on, providing free textbooks and the core textbooks to every student, and this is something that the tuition fees should include. Also, for dissertation, for students in their third year working on their dissertation, the textbooks they need and the resources should be available online and digitalized. And as I said before, whatever we cannot digitalize should be replaced with new core textbooks in each course. And not only because the students and researchers need to have the required textbooks and learning materials online, but also because it often, if a student cannot afford the cost of the textbooks, it may lead to piracy, especially now that libraries are partially open or closed.
Another question that was put forward was that many students across the university have found that assignments have been being handed back with quite a delay. And I'm just wondering what you would put in place to ensure that the marking period doesn't exceed the sort of time that the students are putting in. Regarding
that issue, marking and feedback in general is definitely a concern that students have, because before preparing my statements and all this thing, I conducted a research with the academic societies that LeadLUU have. This is a top concern for many students. And my main strategy includes working for a more transparent process of the wall marking, like you would be able to see the progress, where it is, and generally where and what. and making like a more compulsory process for schools as well. And I know that already there is a currently in feedback and marking policy of the university at part 5.6. There is a part referring to that schools need to give the feedback back in students in 15 working days. But there are examples that students have not received feedback in about 90 days from the day they submitted their assignments. And this is something that we should definitely work on.
Yeah, I completely agree with all those. Students need to get their feedback and their marks back as quickly as possible, especially in final year, because they want to be able to apply that feedback to future assessments and also be able to have an expected grade that they can give to employers, grad schemes, internships, or for postgraduate study applications. So I think where appropriate, all feedback and marking should be returned in 2 weeks. I feel like that's quite, that would apply to all departments. But at the moment, you find that assessments that were submitted after the deadline, even if they have an extension, receive feedback and marks way later than anyone else. And that puts those students at a massive disadvantage, even though the extension is usually for a good reason. So I want to make sure that students who have extensions on their assessments also get their feedback and marks within the 2 weeks, and possibly even receive their mark as soon as the marker has, I don't know if I word that well, students get the grade and then the written word feedback shortly after when it's ready. I think that would really help students, especially in final year.
I know that that's been a big issue this year in particularly, and obviously trying to keep lecturers' circumstances in mind as well as our own, but sometimes it does get a bit silly. So yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about. So we're going to take a look over at the Gryphon now. So we're going to speak to Iona. So with events such as Media on Your Own Terms being such a success, how will you collaborate effectively with other media societies on projects that benefit towards a more diverse student community?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. So Media on Your Own Terms was a great event, and I think that LSTV, the Gryphon, and LSR have a really great partnership going between them. And as I've said in my manifesto, one of my key points is that I'd like to make room for debate within the student body, because I think there's such a diversity of student opinion and information and life experience. And if we can all come together respectfully and discuss issues that are of concern to all of us, that would be a really great way to collaborate with the different media societies.
Over the past year with COVID, the Gryphons had to adapt to a more digital platform. How will you continue to utilize this platform, and in what ways will you try to further your online engagement with students?
I think the Gryphon's done an amazing job this year of with the publishing through LeadLUU, which is an online publishing document, and it's kind of meant that the Gryphon isn't bound by any physical limitations. So if you're off campus, you can still read the Gryphon as much as you would be able to in person, which is really exciting. So carrying on publishing a digital edition alongside our print edition would be the aim, and as well taking more creative risks with our digital content. So maybe making a Gryphon zine which can showcase local student art, music, performance and poetry would be really amazing and exciting.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. So I'm going to move over to Devashish. So Devashish, you're running for International and Postgraduate Officer, which is a new role. Considering the two different demographics, how will you balance your work between international students and postgraduate students?
That's a really nice question. As we all know that the majority of the postgraduate students are international students as well. And talking about other international students, they pretty much faces the same problem. And it's really a balancing thing that needs to be done. When talking about international students currently in this pandemic, they are facing the same type of issues, like either they are not able to travel from their home country to the university, or they are not getting the right information at the right time. And some of the students are really feeling left out. And because of this pandemic, it's really difficult for them. And talking about postgraduate students, researching and finding new, completing the assignments and those things are really important. And they need equal weightage and importance. And in my portfolio and the points that I'm going to look into, they both will be equally taken care of.
Oh, that sounds really good. So as well as looking forward, what action would you like to have seen taken over this past year to support postgraduate researchers and international students who were unable to return to Leeds to study this academic year?
The key steps that the university should have taken was making everyone aware of any change or any the information that needs to be communicated well in advance. Because when the students are at their home country and are not able to travel, the main challenge that they face are they're getting wrong information at the wrong time, and they really panic on that particular scenario. So if they are not getting information at the right time, that is really bad. And the assessment and the way the studies are going on, it needs a bit of practice where everyone needs to be aware of the new systems that we are currently using, because not every student is aware of how Zoom functions, how Team function, and a proper training should be given to all the postgraduate and international students to make them aware. We do have recorded videos online, but that needs to be given a formal training that really make them feel as included and the university is taking care of them. Something like that they should have done.
Definitely. I think everyone needed a much more level playing field. And I think you're bang on there. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any closing statements or anything they'd like to say?
I would like to say that for international and postgraduate students, everyone should think about me as Debashi Datta as their representative, and they can follow me on Instagram at Debashi Datta7. That's it.
As an officer, I would work closely with, I want to work closely with the students, the school representatives, and all the academic society, so we can all together respond to the student requests, their need and their concerns, and also to work for, especially next year, which is going to be a really difficult year. The day after COVID is going to be really difficult for everyone.
I just wanted to say that as a candidate for wellbeing, I realised that it's so much more than just mental health. Wellbeing encompasses that, and I think those who feel that maybe wellbeing isn't for them because maybe they don't feel like they fall into a mental health bracket, I will also represent you. Wellbeing issues contribute to so much more physical health, arts, and also please go follow me at Beth for Wellbeing on Instagram. I'm aiming to create a really, really fun campaign and have fun activities running on there. So it would be good to see you.
I just want to say I'm excited to run for this role, just from watching students struggle to carry on with uni work amid a pandemic and going through this experience myself. So I think for the next education officer, it's definitely important to hear student voices and to apply what we've learned from COVID to the next academic year. We've learned a lot from online learning, its benefits, its problems. So I think applying all that and also just listening to how students have been affected will improve everyone's academic experience. I'm going to be sharing my campaign on Instagram. The handle's at Meg Hodge. And I hope you follow me.
I just want to say thank you for watching this interview, and I want to create a paper that's inclusive and diverse and representative of the whole student body, and hopefully you can follow me on my Instagram and Facebook at Iona for Gryphon on both, and I'll be doing lots of Q&As and answering questions about specific details for my campaign and ideas I have, and responding to any thoughts you might have. So give it a follow.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all for joining us. I wish you all the very, very best of luck in your campaigns. For you at home, do make sure you are voting in the LeadLUU elections. To have your say on the next student exec, just head over to the LUU website, where voting will be open from the 1st to the 4th of March. We'll be streaming the results on Leeds Student Television on the 5th of March, so do be sure to check back in with us then. But for now, from myself and from all of the candidates, goodbye.